Yo, what's happening, Raider Nation? It's your boy Soto here. You know what it is. Raiders versus the world, talking about the team that the world loves to hate, your Las Vegas Raiders. All right. Again, it's combine time, and it's time to really dig in to what needs to happen to build a winner every single season. You got to get in there. Past history doesn't matter anymore. You could have been great, you could have been terrible. What happens from here on out is going to determine how this next season is going to go for your franchise. So the Raiders have a lot of changes coming up. These are 6 key questions that must be answered during the combine. But before we do, I want to make sure everyone please subscribe to the channel. It's the best way you can help support the channel. It's absolutely free, and it's the bare minimum you can do to help this channel besides doing absolutely nothing. All right, guys, let's get to it. The first question that needs to be answered is the quarterback puzzle. Like, what's the plan going forward? The Raiders have a ton of quarterback options, but very few of them give any type of excitement. Now, there's Gardner Minshew, who's probably going to be out, and you can keep Aiden O'Connell as a backup, but that doesn't really inspire a lot of hope either. There's free agents like Sam Darnold and Matthew Stafford through a trade, and even Aaron Rodgers could be a possibility. There's draft prospects out there like Shedeur Sanders, who's linked to Tom Brady. There's Cam Ward out there, and there's another group of other guys out there like the Milrose, the Jackson Darts, the Will Howards of the world. Those guys are all kind of lumped in together between a second, third, fourth round picks. So there's a lot of options going forward. The plan of what the Raiders need to do to get a new quarterback is going to be integral to their success going forward. Now, Matthew Stafford is the hot name to watch. He's been the one that's kind of creating the most buzz lately in the trade market, but he's going to be pricey. And Sam Darnold was kind of like the darling of yesterday, but he's going to be pricey as well. And Aaron Rodgers just brings his own problems. It's the problems he brings himself, and maybe wanting to bring over Davante Adams back to the Raiders. That's another issue that we're going to have to deal with. It's never going to be easy with any of these guys. There's always going to be some type of question mark. What do you have to give up to even have the ability to re-sign Stafford to an extension? Is Sam Darnold just a flash in the pan you're going to give a bunch of money to? How much does Aaron Rodgers have left, and is he fully committed to playing football? These are a lot of questions of these guys. Probably going to be your best bet to win right away if you're the Raiders. All right, second question needs to be answered is, what is the biggest need beyond quarterback? We all know quarterback is going to be an issue, right? But what on top of that, what's going to be your biggest need? Well, the Raiders have said they want to win right away. So logic tells you that they're going to lean towards probably one of these free agent quarterbacks or getting a quarterback through trade and extending them. If that happens, you're going to need to fortify the offensive line. Now, Colton Miller is a solid player. Jackson Powers Johnson showed that he's got a lot of promise, and Delmar Glaze came in here, and man, DJ just opened eyes and he kicked down doors, and he really strangled that right tackle spot. Like, that's his spot now. The offensive line gave up a 38% pressure rate on dropbacks. That's pretty terrible. And they had a league worst 3.6 yards per rush. That is not very Pete Carroll-esque. So definitely some attention on the offensive line is going to be needed. On top of that, you need a number one receiver. Now, you have Brock Bowers, but he's not a wide receiver. You can move him around a lot, and he can make big plays, but he's just not a WR1, and you need one of those guys. Now, Jakobi Meyers is a really good 2, borderline 1, but he's just not really a 1. And Trey Tucker is a good 3. You need that top number 1 receiver. Are you going to go through free agency and pay a bunch of money, or you go through the draft? There's 2 options for you there. Drafting a T-Mac at 6, or maybe even looking at a corner if they're available, like a Will Johnson, or if even like a Travis Hunter falls to you at 6 to push Ja'Cory Bennett and Jack Jones at the corner position. Because corner, the Raiders had the worst coverage grade in the NFL last season out of their secondary. So they have a lot of work to do. So there's no really one thing that's the biggest need on top of quarterback. There's a lot of needs on this team that need to be addressed right away if the Raiders are going to win right now the way that Coach Carroll and GM Spytek have said they want to. The next question needs to be answered is, what's going to happen in free agency? What is the plan in free agency? And of course, we need a quarterback, but beyond that, what are we going to do? We have a lot of holes that need to be filled that can't be all filled through the draft. I mean, we're projected to have about $100 million in cap space. That's if the cap goes up to the high end where they think it's going to go. There's a lot of big names out there that could be had. There's corner Charvarius Ward from the Niners. And also we talked about Sam Darnold too, or Aaron Rodgers, or another quarterback to kind of, give a little bit of clarity before the draft if you were to sign one of those guys. But there's a lot of other options. There's Kevin Zeitler. Brandon Scherf. There's like receivers like T. Higgins or Chris Godwin out there, Stephon Diggs. Running backs, you have like Aaron Jones. At corner, you have like DJ Reed, Carlton Davis. There's a lot of big names out there that can be had and that can really bolster this team. If those guys come in on this team, they're going to be the best player at their position, bar none. And also, a lot of these corners could come in here and fill really big roles on this defense. So there's a lot of really enticing names out there. Next question is, how does the draft depth kind of shape what the Raiders want to do in the draft? Now, Dane Brugler is a guy that puts out his top 100 list. Just listen to this, okay? At a top 100 list, Dane Brugler, 17 defensive ends, 13 defensive tackles, 13 corners, and 12 wide receivers in the top 100 players in this draft. What does that tell you? There's a lot of depth at positions of need for the Raiders. So what do? Do we go after some guys who aren't in those lists, like a quarterback, a running back, maybe even offensive line with the early picks, and then wait for that depth later on in the draft because there's going to be a lot of good players there? That's entirely possible. But again, it all depends on free agency. And you might lean going defense if you go heavy in free agency on offense. Now, considering that the offense was the part of the ball that was really concerning this team and holding them back, not being able to score points, I think since the Raiders want to win now, they really probably should go with some veteran guys on offense who the Raiders know could come in and perform right away. Now, all this free agency talk isn't all just guys you get from other teams. We have a lot of free agents of our own. So the big question is who we're going to keep, who's staying and who's going. I mean, we have like 8 defensive starters that are free agents. Okay, now we signed Polamalu, who was a restricted free agent, but there's Merrick, Epps, Kuntz, Diablo, and Spillane. And you have Nate Hobbs, Chason, Adam Butler. There's a lot of free agents, and Graham's going to want to have a lot of these guys back. Now, the re-signing of Isaiah Polamalu kind of spelled doom for Marcus Epps as far as the Raiders go, but the other guys like Hobbs and Diablo, like those guys are teetering on the brink, man. It really depends on how the Raiders do in the draft and what happens in free agency and kind of what market prices for these guys, because they weren't really lighting the world on fire consistently when they were on the team. So I think the Raiders might want to go younger at linebacker and corner to be able to fill some of those roles. That means that probably Hobbs and Diablo and maybe a couple other guys are going to be let walk because of the draft and the depth that they have at these positions. I mean, Merrick, Kuntz, and Spillane, and to a smaller extent, Chason, are going to be the priorities here, okay? And Adam Butler's close behind as a 5th. So it all depends on, do they want to let Eichenberg see what he can do? And as far as the linebacker goes, it really all depends on what Diablo's being offered by other teams and what the contract buzz is for him. The last big question that must be answered is, who's picking the players? Who's the guy that's going to make the final decision on who we pick it? There's going to be 3 major names, right? There's Tom Brady, there's Pete Carroll, and there's John Spytek. Now, Carroll and Spytek have been pretty consistent in saying it's going to be a shared duty, right? A collaboration between the two. And Tom Brady has said he's going to give input, but ultimately he's going to let the guys who they've hired to do the job do their job. I mean, Pete Carroll had final say in Seattle as VP, and it's been going back and forth in the Raider organization. Who's had the power? Is it GM? Is it the coach? Is it the owner? And it's had pretty mixed results, okay? Now, if some of these picks go wrong, especially some of the early ones, I don't know that it's going to start a blame game. I think the guys that we have are a little bit too experienced for that. I think in the past there's been guys that have very little experience doing what they're doing, and it really showed when it came to the early draft picks and developing those early draft picks. So I don't think that's going to be an issue with us, but it's going to be interesting to see what fingerprints are on these picks going forward. All right, guys, there it is. 6 massive questions that need to be answered by the Raiders going into the combine. Are the Raiders going to land Stafford? Are they going to throw a lot of money at Sam Darnold? Are they going to draft Shedeur Sanders? Are they going to go heavy in free agency on one side of the ball and heavy in the draft on the other? Are they going to sprinkle it back and forth? What's the plan? What are they going to do? The cool thing is we're all going to find out. Just sit back, take a little bit of time, and see what we're going to do. Enjoy the combine, guys. I think it's going to be great for us to take a look at these guys. Now, the most important thing in the combine are the interviews and the medical, okay? So hopefully we get some news coming forward on that, and hopefully you guys like this video. Go ahead and subscribe to this channel. It's a great way to support the channel. It's absolutely free, and really it's the bare minimum you can do to help this channel besides doing absolutely nothing. I appreciate you guys. Thank you very much for listening and watching. Until next time, everybody. Peace. Hey, Raider Nation. Thanks for watching. There's plenty more where that came from. Go ahead and smash that like button. Drop a comment. Make sure to subscribe and share to all your socials. It's the bare minimum you can do without doing absolutely nothing.